So I just wanted to do a quick overview on the crap I just put out. So on a quick overview here, private prosecutions are part of our customs, customs of our people. It was enacted because it's our duty and responsibility and obligation to keep the peace within our community, and we're also a self-governing people. So this is one of the styles of how the private prosecution came about, so that we can govern ourselves. And so, like at the beginning, it was like, okay, so every 10 men back in the day were in charge of each other, and to keep, be your brother's keeper, and to keep the peace, and that way you could hold each other in check, and that was a duty and responsibility to your community and to your fellow man at the same time. So as things progressed, and the AG office was created, and then in England there's a public prosecution offices that was created. But over here, all that's happened is they've slowly picked away, the establishment has slowly picked away at the rights of the individual, and because of the common law and the understanding that everyone has inalienable rights, and that was well established, well known. We've run under this forever and ever. The legal society has slowly picked and picked and picked and picked and picked over the last number of generations to basically trick trick everyone into thinking that they are now some kind of statutory creature that falls under their jurisdiction. And so I believe it's really important that we keep this private prosecution going. I believe that everyone should actually get involved in this, and everyone should start holding these persons within the institutions, within the enactments, within certain mandates, public mandates. I think it's important that we hold them accountable, and use our private prosecution powers and rights, like the customs of the people. Let's use it more and more. I mean, with the very few that have stood up to do a private prosecution, to enact on it, to act on it, it's been easy for somebody that holds an office to be intimidated to screw over the private, let's call it private person. You will find private person in, I think it's in the Bank Act. So the establishment does recognize what private person is. I believe that I am man, that I was created by my Creator as man, and I wish to be addressed as Al, but I wish to stand as man. If you wish to call me a private person or whatever, that's fine. You can do that as long as you recognize the fact that you do address your fellow man, and that you are talking man to man with me. And I don't care if you're feminine or masculine man. We are all of mankind. So like the private prosecution from the private person, I believe, should make a comeback. And I think the ability of one man or woman that holds a position, a title, or an entitled position, which is their privilege, they actually have no right. I kind of didn't really explain that well in part 2, but no, these are the folks that have the privilege. That's why they have the Privilege Driving Act, because a driver is not a man or woman going from point A to point B with property on a public road, which is the right of that man or woman, no matter what the property is. There is no condition set on a man or woman going from point A to point B with the with their property to pass through the public in private. But the driver itself is like a carrier. It's an entitled position. It's a privilege. So somebody acting as a driver for, I don't know, Amazon, for instance, or Walmart, or the government, for that matter, or an institution or an agency. That is what a real driver is. A man or a woman going from point A to point B on the regular business, that is not a driver. And so it's time to start, it's time to start acting. I think, I like the fact that these guys are doing the private prosecutions. I don't have a lot of faith that they can get through. And like I say, I love the idea that when you swear on information before a justice, that's where the justice sees the merits of the case, and that's where the justice that's your smell test right there. And that if you pass the smell test, you should be free to conduct the prosecution as you see fit, because you're the one who acts as the prosecutor. So I don't see why the AG has to always interfere with everything. I think the AG should stay the hell out of it. And if the man or woman who does act as the private prosecutor fails, is found wanton, or just isn't able to argue their point, to get their point across within a public courthouse, within a public venue, right? Then, well, maybe next time, right? But at least that man or woman who acts as a public servant will think twice before doing wrong, before being pressured by their peers to do wrong, using the public office to do it. And whenever you use a public office to do wrong, all right, then that man or woman within that public office causes harm to their fellow man. And the reason is because that public institution that person does, that man or woman does hold as a person, or entitled or privileged to operate within that institution, those were all made for the benefit of mankind, for the benefit of the people. And so if they're using that position, that privileged position that they hold within that institution to serve the public, to cause harm to the public, loss to the public, injury to the public, then that is wrong, and they should be held accountable. And like I say, even if you lose at court, the next time they will think twice before stepping out of their mandate and using their position, their privilege, their title to cause harm to their fellow man, just because they don't like them, they don't agree, or they're power mongers, or who knows what evil lurks within a man or woman's heart that holds these entitled positions, that holds these titles, that holds these privileges that have been granted to them by the people. So the other thing I wanted to mention too is, you have to realize too that you have no right to summons anybody. Okay, so you can't make out a warrant to force them to appear, like a bench warrant. You can't summons them to court. Now you can invite them to court, so it is up to the justice to summons them to court. So like the AG doesn't summons you to court. It's got to be signed off by the justice. So it's up to you to convince the justice that they need to be summoned. Now you can offer to write up the summons. You can offer to write up, the bench warrant or the summons, just to save on court time, resources, and so on and so forth. For the the man or woman in the black robe, but it has to be signed off by them. So you cannot create the summons to have somebody show up at court. So that's actually a really important point. Like I say, I just watched this vids. I'm not real happy. I don't feel that good. I think I'm catching some, with the weather change and shit. So I've kind of been I don't know. But my mind goes crazy with this crap. I think I learned too much. And yeah, it's too bad we have to know all this stuff. Like, why should we have to know all this stuff? Why should there be so many enactments that the establishment can go and entrap us, entrap a man or a woman, and slander him as that person, and hold him to account as that person, and cage him as that person, and like, come on, man. Like, this is like, but they're out of hand, and I believe that the private prosecution, which is our heritage, it's fundamental, it's inherent, like, I believe it's a great idea, and I like the idea of rather than using this for malicious or vexatious, is what they like to use here. Malicious is more of an American term, but it's the same shit. Rather than using your position, and your heritage, to be able to hold a private prosecution maliciously, I think it's a great tool that we need to hold people to account who are there as public servants, not there as public rulers, not there to destroy lives, but there to benefit lives. And that, to me, seems really, really important. I just hope that when the constitutions get made, I wrote articles of the Constitution up for Alberta myself, but I feel pretty fucking small right now. Well, I mean, the guys are having meetings and Wexit and this and that. I'm struggling to make ends meet, so I'm busy. I have duties, responsibilities to a few people around here, and scratching out a living at the same time, just like everybody else. So, but I look at Wexit and the people involved. The only thing at this time that I can really do is what I'm doing. I would love to put out my articles of the Constitution, the Republic of Alberta Constitution, and maybe I should get some parchment paper, or maybe like real high cotton content paper, and get them scribed on there. I've been thinking about doing that, but until there's a constitution of, by, and for, nobody really has any standing except for our individual inalienable common law rights that have been instituted through time by the customs of the people and recognized by the legal society, which basically has taken over this nation and runs your life almost through every aspect. Food, energy, housing, vehicles, everything, schools, everything. They've infiltrated our lives, even to the point of watching us through our electronics and their smart meters. Like, I mean, it's gotten crazy. It's gotten crazy. I mean, Google going from a platform to a publisher, and then trying to hang on as a platform instead of a publisher. No, if you're going to act like a publisher, you should be held to account, and I think there should be private prosecutions there too. I think there also should be tort suits. I don't believe in class action lawsuits. I think that's just a wrong way to go. I think if there's 1,000 people that have been harmed and loss and injury from a corporate body like Google or YouTube or Twitter or any of those, if it's 1,000 people, there should be 1,000 court cases for them to answer. As simple as that. Either straighten out your act or get the fuck out of here. Simple as that. Let them run in China that way, but not on this land. Not here. No. Mankind has a right, an inalienable right. Mankind has an inherent right. It's two different rights, right? You know, the right, which is the custom of the people, you know, your customs, your rights, you know, last rites, you know, like a church does, and your right to express yourself freely, to self-govern. You know, the government loves to throw the word anarchy around. Anarchy, anarchy. We can't have anarchy. Well, anarchy just means self-govern, man. I look at nature all day long, and those damn turkeys running over the highway, self-governing. So you say I'm less than a wild turkey, and you have a right to govern me? You know, well, anyways, it's getting stupid. So yeah, so remember that it's up to the justice to create the summons, and they're not going to create a summons for you. You'll have to put it forth before the justice. You have to put it before the court, you know, that you require a summons, you know. So, because they won't do it automatically. You can lay your information, all of a sudden it lies, and you're like, well, what's going on? You know, this is why everybody needs to kind of, you know, there should be groups, you know, groups of folks. Start studying up private prosecutions and do it with groups. Do it with your peers. I mean, it's not like we don't have Skype. You know, you have Skype groups. You can have Google Play groups. You can have, you know, Facebook groups. You can have all kinds of groups. Start studying private prosecutions and start using what belongs to you. You know, it's use it or lose it. And right now, everyone is under attack here. You know, each man and woman that is part of the LGBTQ community, whatever it is, I know there's wrongdoers in every community. There is in every society. You always have somebody that does not have honest intent, right? Within every community. But what they'll do is they'll use you today to take away from everybody else. You think you're winning, but then once they get to where they wish to be, now it's your turn and you get thrown under the bus. All right, like they used the Christian church at one time under the Hudson's Bay Charter. The charter, right? You know, it was okay to kill Indians that weren't Christian, right? But they weren't allowed to kill a Christian Indian, right? That professed to be a Christian. Now they're jailing Christians and they're holding Muslims, or you know, up and coming down on Christians. Like, guys, and at one time they held up women's rights. You know, what do you girls call that? You know, but whatever. These girls were holding up women's rights, right? Now you're being brought down because now there's gay black women's rights, or there's gay, you know, whatever it is, like you know, the Muslims. Okay, you're holding up the Muslims' rights, and they throw you know, gays off of buildings. They suffer gay not to live, and women have no rights. You know, they're, you know, originally, from my understanding, from what I've figured out, originally, you know, when the Muslim doctrine came around about the Quran, women were to be held up in esteem. It's like in our old days, we held our women up in esteem. Now the women fought for the rights, right? But women weren't held liable like men were until women got the women's rights movement. And so, like, this is why if you ever watch, like, I Love Lucy, remember that old show I Love Lucy? This is why her old man was always spanking her at the end of the show, because every time Lucy did something, her husband was held accountable because he was the man of the house. And so they go after him, whether it was for debt or whatever, right? She couldn't be held accountable because she was a woman. Now, all women are held accountable just like guys are, which is fine. I believe in equality. I believe everyone is equal. I believe everyone is born equal. Some just end up with more privileges than others. But privileges taken can be privileges missed. You know, simple as that, you know. But anyways, yeah, so like, you know, the establishment, these these folks that get in and start running the establishment, they take advantage of their position. They're taking great advantage of their position and their titles and their privileges at this time, and are now using the institutions, and people within the institutions are attacking folks, and they are causing harm, loss, and injury. And I see a lot of tort action going on, and I see a lot of criminal activity going on. And you do not have the right to slander somebody else's name in public. Simple. You do not have the right. Nobody has the right to go and slander somebody else. You have the right to tell the truth in public. And there's a difference between telling the truth and slander. So, so just remember that if you do go swear on information and you are trying to right a wrong through the criminal code, right, through an indictment or a summary, an indictable charge or a summary, and your intent is to get things straightened out so that you can keep the peace, more power to you. But just remember that you're the one who has to ask, to beg for the court to create the summons to force the other side to show up. And the AG at this time, there is, just because of the way the criminal code is read, let's just put it this way: get ready to have to wrestle with the local AG if you're taking a man or a woman who acts as a public servant to court. And get ready to wrestle with the legal society, the judiciary, if you wish to take a public servant for a tort, because they like lawyers. And at the same time, I don't agree with, because I believe everybody has a right to access our public courthouses, because that's what they were created for, to keep the fight off the street and put the fight into a public venue that has rules, right? Put it on the court. Put the fight on the court. Okay, the ball's going back and forth. Let's see who wins, right? With certain rules, keeping the court quorum. And I believe, being ex-nayed from being entered, to hold court because somebody doesn't like you, or there's a wrongdoer that holds the position as a justice, I believe is completely wrong. And there should be some kind of recourse for anybody to be able to access the court without costing you $1 million. I mean, it's our court. We pay, but we do nothing but pay tax on this land. There's tax, and more tax, And now there's more tax, and now they're talking about triplicating the new taxes. The new carbon tax is going to be, it could be quadruplated. It depends. You got counties and regional districts, and municipalities and provinces, and like townships, and there's nothing but, it's like, what is this whole country just one big government? Government entity? Is everybody work for the government? Does it have to eat its own tail? The snake that ate its own tail. Really. I mean, if you love this country, if you love Canada, I'm not talking about the institution of Canada, but if you love this nation and this land, and do give a shit about your neighbor, I think private prosecutions is a good way to show it. I also think getting a public, or getting a constitution for each province is a good way to show it. So, I was saying that, okay, with the constitution I wrote up, which I haven't shown anybody yet, I don't know. I feel really small living way out here in the country, and I look at the meetings going on, the Wexit meetings, and all the people showing up, and I'm trying to look at who's heading these meetings and who's speaking too, because the infiltrators are going to come. Oh yeah, I wonder if infidel and infiltrator are kind of the same thing. Maybe I'll start calling infiltrators infidels. Can I make up my own word? I think I can. I think there's, what do they call that? It's not Wikipedia, it's Urban Dictionary? Yeah, I think I'll go make up my own Urban Dictionary word for that. That sounds like fun. Yeah. Yeah. Infidel. Yeah. All right. So I just want to make sure that you guys you know, got it as far as if you can get as far as a summons. So you have to make sure that you know, apply for it, beg for it. I know professionally, you know, a lawyer, somebody who acts as a Crown lawyer, will offer to write up the summons, and then the judge just signs it, kind of thing. I believe that, well, I'm not going to go there, but yeah, you don't want a default judgment. That's something that you don't want to get. I mean, because for whatever reason, if somebody's not there, I mean, both parties need to be there. You know, you have a right to face your accuser. You have a right to cross-examine your accuser. And for whatever reason, if you summon somebody and they don't come in, then what you want to do is you want to go and apply to the court for a bench warrant to bring them in, even on the civil side, to make sure that they're in, so that they're there, so you can hold proper court and get a proper judgment, rather than a default judgment. I know too many guys that can just, they know how to take a default judgment, throw it back in your face. I know a couple of ways too, and it's just, you know, no, I mean, if it's real, everybody needs to be there. And yeah, simple as that. Be there and hold court and keep the fighting off the streets, before we end up going back in time with all this shit and start burning down each other's barns. I don't want to see riots in the streets. Like, look what the establishment has done already. You know, amoralizing this nation. What do you mean amoralizing? You know, not demoralizing. Like, you know, people aren't so much immoral; they're more amoral. They just don't know about morals. You know, and that's why you have, you know, young guys, you know, running around shooting up apartment buildings just to make a music video, not realizing they just killed an innocent young man and wounded a couple of people. I mean, shit like that. I mean, that's just amoral, man. I mean, that's crazy. Maybe they were born here, and maybe they weren't. You know, you want to take people from countries where they don't value human life the way that we have, and you got to remember, you know, this old stock Canadian thing too. Most Canadians by nature, just our personality as Canadians, is we wish to obey the law, and we wish to tell the truth, and we wish to be straight up. That's pretty much it. And so when you have a crooked establishment, what they do is they trick you. They'll lie through their teeth, trick you into telling the truth, which you should. I mean, what, you know, be straight up with stuff. And but then they twist it, because they're liars to begin with, and they twist it up, and then next thing you know, your ass is grass, and you wonder how the hell that happened. And then you get mad at the judicial system because you didn't have a fucking clue on how to stand up as a man at court. So let's learn to man up, and yeah, I think everybody should get more and more into these private prosecutions and take a look at it, and learn how to chase down a justice so you can. I got some acquaintances there that did that. They couldn't get in to see a justice to swear on information. They couldn't do it. So what they did was they hung around the courthouse till a justice showed up at the clerk's office, and then walked right in and said, "Hey, we're here to swear out," and brought 3 witnesses. Because then the man or woman that they were going after had, and it wasn't private prosecution, but they were swearing out an information, I think for civil action, I believe it was. But I can't remember the exact details, but